2 rally events remain in the easy difficulty, and then after that we should pretty much be done with the easy section of rally events. We've done 9 of them, so let's now get on with number 10, Yosemite Rally 1. As we are doing both the forward and reverse variants of Cathedral Rocks Trail 1. And switching back to the dirt tyres, because obviously we're back on the dirt again. But we also have a touch of tarmac as well for about less than half the lap. And once again we've got the Toyota Celica GT4 road car as our opponent. Okay, let's go. And 10 points again, so I'm anticipating this to pretty much be a piece of cake, because that's what most of these rally events have been up to this point. I know there's not really anything else I can really say, except for just how easy these rally events have been so far. So, off the dirt now and onto the tarmac. This is, of course, a section of El Capitan, as you might have guessed. And I should also mention, this is technically the longer version of Cathedral Rocks. But anyway, we're back on the dirt once again. Probably didn't need to shift into 5th gear, but either way, I still did. And all in all, I'd say we're doing okay. And the Celica is definitely closer to me than he was the last time I raced him at Tahiti Maze. So, I think it's pretty obvious to say that I might have a challenger here. Because the rubber banding definitely appears to be closer here than it did at Tahiti Maze. But either way, we're doing okay. We're staying ahead and we're just maintaining our lead. That's all we need to do. We just have to make sure we stay on track and then we should be fine. And I set my first lap of a 2:05.9, and the gap is 3.5 seconds ahead of the fucking Celica. Even though he is closing in again, so whatever. Anyway, we're still ahead in the battle. And not going into the wall there. I almost did it, but I managed to back out of it at the last second. And more or less keeping ahead of my opponent. Doesn't look like he's going to catch up to me, the way I see things. And contact with that outside wall, and also letting go of the throttle before something goofy happens, which is obviously what I don't want. And I think it's fair to say the Toyota is definitely faster through the second part of the lap than I am, which is why he's been able to close the gap. I think he seems to have more of a handling advantage here compared to what I do in the latter part of the lap, and that's why he's closed in on me. But I don't think he's going to get to me. Unless I have a spin, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm pretty sure this is going to be another easy win for me, because I've just stayed ahead the entire time. And I only went 7/10 faster, and 2.8 seconds in the end was the margin of victory, with a time of 4 minutes 11 seconds for race 1. Not bad. Not bad. That still came to me relatively easily. Anyway, on now to race number 2, which I don't think is going to be any different to the first one from what I can see. But here we go. Time now for race 2 at Cathedral Rocks Trail 1. And this time we're up against the Audi Quattro. So, I think it's fair to say we're definitely getting some more dynamic opponents here, compared to what we've more or less been having prior to the George V rally, where I think it was for 8 separate races, where I had at least one race during that time in almost every single rally event where I was going against the Lancia Delta. And for 8 single races so far, I've more or less been up against the Lancia Delta up to this point so far, and he is the one opponent which I have raced the most times in the easy rally event races, even though these events are obviously head to head. And yep, I had a snap of oversteer as I came off the corner, and as a result the Audi basically got past me. Kind of what I was expecting in all honesty, but either way, I can definitely say this event has been more interesting. And got a little bit forced to the outside there, but then again, we were never going to make it through that one little bit of real estate even if we wanted to. We probably would have seen ourselves spinning in the gravel if we did, which would have meant catastrophe, but either way, we're back in the battle. And it's fair to say I've definitely got an opponent this time who can challenge me, which is kind of what I've been waiting for a few episodes now to see. But I think this battle of 80s versus 90s, it's actually not that bad. And first time we set was a 2 minutes 10.3. So this race is definitely closer than the previous one was. And maybe part of the reason for that is because the Audi technically has more horsepower than what the Toyota had, which is probably the main reason why the Audi Quattro is staying so close to me. In other words, this is actually turning out to be a fun race, and certainly a competitive one, which is one I have not seen for a bit. But I think it's fair to say this battle of what's essentially Group B versus Group A, this is definitely one of those battles that I can certainly say I was waiting for. And it looks like I've now taken the lead for good. As long as I can stay on top, I should be fine. And 2.6 seconds, so... Shame to say the battle had to end prematurely, but either way, I kind of knew my car's stronger handling was gonna break away from the Audi eventually. But altogether, up until that point, this was a pretty close race. And certainly a fun one as well, considering I do actually have a challenger. And it might not be over yet either, but I think there's enough of a gap for me to hold on. He has closed back in on me, but I don't think he's going to get to me. And down the stretch, and there we go. Victory over the Audi Quattro by just 1.4 seconds. He definitely erased that gap by the time we got back on the dirt. He was definitely just scything away that gap in that last couple of corners. So I think it's fair to say which one of us has the advantage when it comes to just the gravel section of the course, which is essentially what we were racing on. We basically were racing on gravel, but either way, the four-wheel drive Impreza beats the four-wheel drive Audi Quattro. 94 beats 82. Still, I gotta say, that second race was definitely a thriller. And I am glad to say it turned out to be a much closer race than I thought it was going to be. I'll definitely give the Audi Quattro kudos for being a worthy opponent. Anyway, car we get for this, we get the Land Rover from this event, which is actually pretty cool. I'm also pretty sure up until GT6, this is the only Land Rover that's really appeared in a GT game up to this point. And this car is huge. The Land Rover Range Stormer concept. I just had to get a full view of that thing because it is huge, to put it simply. In other words, it's what Manny Fresh would refer to as being a real big time. Anyway, there we go. Yosemite Rally 1 is done. And next up will be Cathedral Rocks. So, let's get a look at our next prize car, as we are up to 8.9% now, so we've gained another 0.5% as a result. And it's a bit further down compared to the other cars we've won so far. But here it is. And because it's a concept car, we can't sell it for anything. But this thing has a V8. And it also has over 300 horsepower. You honestly would have thought for sure, up until this game, Land Rover was probably the last manufacturer you would have expected to appear in a GT game, up until this one, when they started adding SUVs. And, in all honesty, this car's pretty cool. It's pretty big, but it's also pretty cool, and that's what I like about it. And not just because it has a V8 under the hood, with a pretty slick grille design on the hood as well. Anyway, one rally event to go in the easy events, and then stay tuned.